What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of 5 Minutes with Shawn, maybe 10. Today's going to be a lot more than 10 minutes. We have a lot of fun. I'm joined by Shawn Armorer, and this guy's energy, 18 years in the car business, calls himself the BDC Alchemist. I got to tell you, after sitting with him for 45 minutes plus, I can tell you he gets it. He understands the quality of a BDC. He understands why it's important. He took my questions as to why he exists as a BDC to heart and really answered them honestly. You know, as someone who grew up without BDCs, I didn't understand them, but I can tell you now I do. I can see the value, and a guy like that really personifies the big reasons why we have them. So take your time. But if you're a BDC person, manager, BDC agent, BDC hopeful, an owner thinking about running a BDC, everything you could possibly think of, I'm pretty sure we covered in the last 45 minutes. Sit back, enjoy, and come join us next Monday when I bring you yet another amazing guest in Chris Martinez. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It is another sit-down edition on the 5 Minutes with Shawn show today. It's going to go longer than 5 minutes. We got a little Shawn and Shawn situation here. I am joined by Shawn Armorer of Canada. I'm going north of the border yet again. I do love my guys up there. Shawn, how are you today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. How are you, bud?
I'm wonderful, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being on. I know that you are a long-time automotive veteran. You and I were chatting about your story a little earlier. Let me just ask you this, though, before we get too far into it. Right now, at the 30,000-foot level, what is Shawn's current role in the automotive industry right now?
Currently, right now, during COVID, I was after. I think we're a little bit ahead of this thing than you guys are.
Sure.
I've had the luxury of reuniting with two of my favorite bosses that I've had previously. There was some opportunities that they bought into a large dealer group in my area. So they brought me on board basically to centralize BDC operations, as well as they trusted me to do a lot of the operational structure as well, fixed ops and variable ops as well.
That's awesome, man. So you have a real opportunity to impact change and the way people buy and service cars in your dealership. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. And when you're talking about impact change, I just want to stress the fact that it's equally as important to come on board and create a culture with the people that actually work under the rooftop. It's not just external, but it's also internal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can just come in, and I think that's a lesson a lot of people need to learn, especially now if you're transitioning jobs. When you get to a new house, you know, you come in, you need to learn the lay of the land, you need to talk to people, you need to understand their positions before you impose yours on them. And mainly because your positions may change as you talk to people. How you were raised at another dealership, how you were treated at another dealership can truly impact you to that new one. How do you balance getting involved with new people? I mean, here you are at a new dealer group of 7 stores. You have a history of working for large dealer groups. What does your first 30 days look like when you get into it? Now, obviously, it's different for you because you've been tasked with a pretty major ground up, build. But I mean, in general, what do 30 days look like for you?
Great question. First 30 days, if I break that up basically into weeks, 4 weeks and 30 days, right? So the first 2 weeks is really observatory. Don't get too involved. Just kind of let them kind of still navigate the way that they were used to, pre-purchase, obviously, and then slowly interject. So it's kind of like let them come to you before you just impose yourself, right? Let them get used to you. So I would have an open door policy. You're obviously having a meeting the first 3 days, 2 days to introduce yourself. You don't go too heavy. You don't go with accolades and what I've done and this is what we're going to do. They've heard it all before. So I think it's just a slow integration. Do not impose yourself. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of scare. People are like, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to lose seniority, et cetera, et cetera. So the first couple of days or maybe the first week and a half, I would probably say that it's just a slow integration, let them come to you. And then you just progressively start looking at things that I feel I want to change. Maybe not process and structure yet because they clearly have something that's kind of working, if you will. But do some of the walls need painting? Can we clean up the outside of the building? Do we need to change some signs? We're in 2020, so can I take down the 2017 sign? That's way too high and nobody bothered to touch it. So can I make sure that the bathrooms are clean just by taking a spot check and then calling the maintenance worker? So just slowly showing them that I'm a lot more than sipping lattes in my office in the morning.
Sure. Which, hey, it's important people understand that if you've been there, you can do it with them. It was always tough for me because I grew up in this business working for everyone who was older than me. It was the same way when I told you before we got on this that when I wasn't selling cars, I was in the men's clothing business. I was always the youngest guy. And so you always had to hear, you become a manager. It's like, what does the young guy know? How can he be a young guy and be a manager? We've been here forever. That stuff can be tough for people to understand. How do you deal with, again, the integration of people who've been doing this longer than you, been doing this shorter than you? Sort of, how do you manage that middle relationship? Because in your position, you're going to be dealing with people who are high-level executives who have been doing this longer than you have and have their own opinions. And then you'll be dealing with new hires that you're going to green pea out of somewhere else and put them into our industry. So how do you balance that?
Never too young enough to be a leader and never too old enough to learn.
There you go. You're a man of quotes. I feel like you had that in
Yeah, that's actually in Marco downstairs in the back. No, I'm just chatting.
No, don't it's written somewhere. It's in your office. No, I don't buy it.
It's floating around, right? It's floating around.
I don't buy it. All right. So
truth be told,
I like that.
It's very simple, but if anybody out there needs a little bit more, I'll give you a 1-minuter. Learn to speak other people's language. Some people need numbers to understand what I'm trying to do. Other people need to understand my experience and why I'm here. And other people just need to understand what processes are we going to put in place. So it's just basically like my company. It's about alchemy. Just making something out of nothing, right? So, but the step number 1 is to have everybody included in it and letting them know that you're here to work with them.
You are the BDC Alchemist. That is your deal. How did you settle on that name? I'm interested. Alchemy is obviously a big part of the history of medication and that sort of thing in this country and how people were taken care of. How did you settle on that, man?
I read the book by Paulo Coelho called The Alchemist. Okay. And the message in that book really resonated with me. And there's also another really quick thing, a little bit more on the spiritual side, as above, so below. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all have emotions. Anybody that hasn't read that book, strongly recommend to do so, because alchemy essentially, if you go way, 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 way back in the days, is basically they were like metal workers, right? So you'd take a piece of metal and you'd make like a crazy sword, or they would just make things out of nothing, basically. Where other people saw this big chunk of metal, they saw something else.
Yeah.
So then I can quickly go into, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to change. And it's absolutely certain. So that's where alchemy came from. I'm an alchemist.
I like it, man. I like it. So here we are living in a crazy time. And as we talked about before, you guys are probably a lot closer to a post-COVID sort of environment. When you look at your dealerships and what is going to inevitably change for you, probably for the long term with regards to this whole thing, if we're going to continue to take the lessons that we've learned and move them forward, what are some of the things that stand out to you about the BDC process that will really have really changed and indefinitely changed as a result of this whole thing?
Right now, I don't, and I don't wish this upon you guys, because we're a little bit ahead of you guys, I believe, with regards to the ban being lifted. And but where I am in Montreal, we got hit the hardest in all of Canada. So what I am seeing right now, and if I can help anybody that's 2 or 3 weeks behind us, what we are seeing right now in the dealerships, there's an absolute, the inventory is absolutely dried up, saturated. There's nothing nowhere. What happened is during the COVID, there was a bottleneck, and I call it bottleneck selling, right? So almost every dealership in Canada had a record month in June. Let me tell you. It's all over all the social media platforms, and everybody's like, yeah, I sold 40 cars. Yeah, but hold on. That's just because there was 600 opportunities stuck in the CRM, right? So the minute that the government eased up on the restrictions and allowed people to start shopping with restrictions, of course, we're literally completely out of inventory right now.
Okay, so that's a whole nother problem, right? I mean,
It's a whole other issue. Plus, on top of that, what happened is that obviously with the, I'm not sure what happened in Wisconsin, but the government here, I'm sure it happened down there, but we kind of freezed everything. So people are actually able to, while we were furloughed, people were actually able to push away some payments because there was no money coming in, right? So your mortgage, I didn't have to pay my mortgage for 4 months. Obviously, there was penalties, but the same could be said for all the lease end dates of the cars. Right now, there's a tremendous amount of our leasing portfolio that a lot of people have pushed their leasing payments. They've extended their leasing 4 or 5 months. Well, that's automatically going to make a 4 or 5 month gap somewhere of cars that are supposed to be here on my lot.
Yeah, as well as, but it also can have that effect on the opposite side. It can be more of a wave of cars that you'll be able to sell or be able to deal with come the future, obviously, because right now it's about inventory assessment, right? So you look at your lot and people needed to make a decision. I don't know how it works for you guys, but down here we've got people who play the gross game, people who play the unit game, some who try to play both. But for us, the way I've always approached it is if we got a car and somebody wants it, then, we sell it and we make some money on it. We don't need to make $1 million on every car. If we made $1 on every car and sold 1 million cars, we'd be better off. Because again, I think that selling a car really is the initial part of a relationship. I think where you were raised in this business on the fixed op side and where you cut your teeth, I think that's where you really see dealerships have the ultimate advantage or disadvantage, depending on how you set it up. What did starting in fixed operations do for you when you got to sales? How did it change your perspective and or approach?
It put some extra tools in, it put a lot of tools, I should say, in my toolbox. Whereas for me, it wasn't, we keep saying, and the big buzzword right now is customer experience, set an experience. So that's exactly what I went into it with. So whereas a lot of the people that were more sales oriented and they were very good at what they did, a lot of people were a lot sales oriented, so they were they were way better at me than negotiating. But what I had for me was this is what's going to happen after. So I was able to build value on our track record on the service side pertaining to customer service.
Because you were familiar with that retention process, and obviously for sales, retention is an afterthought, and unfortunately, most salespeople do not view their book of business as theirs. They don't treat it as such. They're looking for the next fresh up, the next internet lead. Instead of working your base, getting your referrals, making money where money is to be made. What do you try to? Because your jobs, BDCs are different. If you guys are there to set the stage, you're there to get things revved up. Now, look, you're talking to someone who in his retail life thought BDCs were the dumbest idea ever. When I ran stores, I didn't get it. I was raised in Chicago car business, man. If you couldn't sell a car on your own, you did not survive. There was no one to help you with that. So the mentality really dug in. How is that when you look at sort of the BDC sales side, right? That relationship. How is it most successful? Like, how can you get both to work well together, Shawn? What's the key element to that relationship?
Sorry about that. You froze up. What's your question?
The key element to BDC and sales departments working together. What is that?
The key element to BDC and sales working together, working towards a common goal. The BDC needs the BDC department manager, whatever. Let's just call it everybody together, the culture. The BDC, to your point, why do you need a BDC? And that is a very valid question, 100%. The BDC's main goal is to drive traffic, but not just any kind of traffic. You need to build value to what we do. So basically it's in the scripting. And what I mean by scripting is talk about everything except the price. Because when people call in, if they wanted a price, well, they were on your website and they saw a price. So if they're calling in, it's very specific. What do you need the car for? When is your purchase due for? I really make sure that my agents understand that they're not here to sell a car. They're here to assist the shopper with their shopping experience. They're also there to take all the conversation that they've had and enter it in the notes in the CRM. That way, when I do book an appointment for Shawn, and he comes in on Friday, I am there to facilitate the salesman by putting as much meat as possible prior to the customer's visit.
And so that takes us into an important part of this, which is CRM usage, right? So especially in what you build out, which sounds like you build out centralized BDC. So it doesn't sound like you build out store by store, which again, these are different approaches. What an in-store BDC can operate really differently than a centralized. There's greetings, there's all kinds of aspects that can happen from in-store. So from a centralized perspective, I love what you just said, which was don't ever sell a car. Now you've seen me and I've seen you on discussions online about this. How do you affect the pay plan, and how do you deal with people who say to you, if you're not paid on selling a car, then what's the point? Like, how do you deal with that part of it?
Great question. So without giving away my secret sauce, because there's no secret. So what I do is basically in my BDC, I have basically an hourly wage, an hourly structure. And then in my performance-based pay plan, so in my bonus portion of it, mine personally is cut up into 3 areas. Booked, how many have you booked? How many have showed? And how many have sold? Now, let me explain that to you really quickly. The booking is in direct correlation with scripting and the coaching. So your BDC manager needs to be on top of it, because if somebody is booking at a superior percentage compared to everybody else, how do I know that they're booking garbage? Sorry to say it that way. Well, then you're going to have such a super high booking percentage that they're not going to show up. So if you're too heavily focused on a booking amount, and they don't show up, well, then I can't do anything with that. The house can't do anything with that. So I'll put a nominal amount in my bonus structure on show. Okay, that keeps them on script, and it keeps them basically asking the right questions.
All right, let's break this up. Hold on. I need more context. So let's break this up. So let's call it 100% of the pie is those 3 elements. How much of 100% are you assigning in your performance-based pay plan to the booked apart?
Let's do 30%.
Okay. Got it.
But yeah, 30%. Yeah, don't take it with a grain of salt, but somewhere at 25, 30%, whatever you want.
I just need context. Just saying we pay someone a nominal fee could mean $1 to me, it could mean $10 to you. So let's just so we have 30% of the pie is going to be parted in booked appointments. All right, we move to shows.
60 to 70%.
60. So the bulk of the job, the bulk of the pay is going to be right here, 60 to 70%. And then the other 10-ish, 5-ish, whatever ends up in the pile. It can't be 70%. All right, I got you. 5 to 10% will be the sale percentage. Is my
Absolutely, because we're not in sales. However, if you want whatever dollar amount is associated to that 20% on sales, well, you better make sure that you're doing your follow-ups post-appointment.
Okay, so if they don't book a sold appointment, if the day the appointment comes down, because if this is what you're talking about, now you're getting all report on report shit here. So, if you have I'm a BDC rep. You paid me for a booked, yeah. Then I showed, yeah. Didn't sell. 3 days later, sells. It just sounds like you said if I didn't do anything in those 3 days, then I can take that sales money and I can. It disappeared. Is that what you just said? Is that
100%? Listen, it's part of the process. My agents, first thing in the morning, call all the fresh opportunities.
Okay.
Immediately following the fresh opportunities is your post-appointment follow-up. every single appointment that you are responsible for that booked and showed the previous day, get on the horn.
And this is just a general CSI. Are we playing dumb? Do we have notes? Do we know what happened? Like, how are we making that useful? Because it seems like it could be useless if it's just like a, hey,
well,
I assume you guys know the details.
Yeah, for sure. Of course we know the details, because I just said it about 7 minutes ago that I spend so much time training my people on putting as much notes as possible. What are you going to do with the car? What is it for? When are you going to buy it? Do you have a trade? Do you have money down? It's a conversation that I'm having. I'm not just booking appointments. It's not a call center.
Yeah, but you said, you're right. You did say your people. But
Yeah.
you and I both know, and we just agreed to this, your people don't sell cars. So what I'm asking is, how often are you finding notes from the people you set up with opportunities who don't sell a car or do sell a car? How often do you find what you need in the CRM to do your job after they've done theirs?
Next to none.
So then why should there be any part of a sale when the people responsible for the sale couldn't give a shit less about the people responsible for the booked appointment?
Because the BDC only thrives when it is supported by executive management. So do you know what that means? That means that those appointments and that inventory belongs to the owner, not the salespeople. I work for the house. I work for the ownership. If Johnny Two-Tone couldn't sell the car, maybe so-and-so could have.
Right, but that's a reflection of your BDC. And so, again, I go back to this fundamental problem that I have with the whole thing, which is owner, yes, as a previous owner in a lifetime, yes, I understand my responsibility, my inventory, my ownership. Right. But you're my BDC manager, and so your job is to bring people through the door.
Yeah, that's what's happening, yeah.
Right. But if you don't sell cars, if the sales team doesn't sell cars, why should that affect what your people make in money? Even if it's nominal, even if it's 5%, 10%, is it to invest them, or is that number to invest ownership? So then you can come to ownership and say, look at how many cars we're responsible for out of the BDC.
Exactly. Yeah, number one, it is to justify, like, hey, listen, at the end of the month, we sold X. Well, we didn't sell, but we are responsible for X amount. Now, to your point, I have been battling with the fact that sales has always looked at us as a cost. It has been a battle since the first BDC I have ever built. I built 5 of them. The first one was back in 08 or 09. Okay, so it's the same thing over and over. It's the same song and dance every time. So it's always the same. How many leads came in and how many did you guys book? Yeah, they don't necessarily understand that my booking is on a long-term process. My cadence or my follow-up system on a fresh opportunity that doesn't answer is literally 7 months. So there's 100 and 200 leads, let's just say, that came in last month. It's not as black and white as saying, well, I booked 100. Yeah, but there's another 75 to 80 that I left messages and I'm following up with. So it's not so black and white. However, of the 75 people that showed up, your guys are only selling 10. So at the end of the month, when you guys fall short, instead of saying, well, it's the BDC's fault because they didn't book enough appointments, I booked more than enough appointments for you guys to hit your numbers. So if I booked 100 and the 50 showed and you guys sold 10, well, we're the other 30 people because they showed purchase intent. They didn't get off the couch and come to the dealership just to have the free coffee, right?
So let's bring this back. Certainly not anymore. So let's bring this back around then. So let's just say you said the BDC agent, if they don't do appointment post the show, they're not paid on the sold. Let me ask you on the inverse. If I do all that paperwork, I do all my work, they come back and they sell, is somebody paying me more?
No, because it's based on a percentage. I don't really like those pay plans where you get a fixed dollar amount for something, because what happens is that your BDC becomes like this free-for-all. There's a lot of sandbagging and there's a lot of, just, can I say it this way, but there's a lot of douchey shit that goes on. when you have like a dollar amount. So when you keep things as a percentage, if you're doing excellent and you got, I don't know, I'll just throw out a stupid number. If you're at like 70% pertaining to something and it doesn't require a number, but it's a percentage, well, then you're not going to stress out when a BDC agent goes on vacation. You left at 70, you're coming back at 70, right? So you don't need to worry that Johnny Two-Tone is not going to steal all of your business while you're gone.
Okay. All right. I like that. So it's based on a percentage. So then do you look at your BDCs by their percentage of retail every month against the retail number and say, last month we ran 30%, now we're at 40, et cetera? Does that factor into how you look at that?
Absolutely. Of course. 100%.
Okay. Have you ever thought about making that a part of the pay plan?
I am now.
Okay. I say that because I think it's something that gets everyone's buy-in, because what will happen is if I consistently show 100 plus shows, right? Every month, 100, and I'm at 30% of retail. And all of a sudden that number bumps to 150 because there's an offer or whatever happens, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But now my retail drops or improves. It can speak to an inefficiency within the system. So I think it's important that you look at that. My next question for you is, how do you look at contact rate? Is that something that you look at? So 100 incoming leads, yes, we know you will respond to 100 of them. That's not my question. Everyone always confuses that. Not my question. My question is, of the 100, are you looking at the percentage your people talk to?
Absolutely. Yep. What I've seen, as a matter of fact, yeah, absolutely. I have a stat for you. For my market, I'm not sure how it is out there. For my market, what I've seen right now, pretty much a standard contact ratio monthly on the sales side is 35 to 40%. What I've seen over on the sales, what I've seen on the sales side is 35 to 40% contact ratio at the end of the month, pretty much consistently over the last couple of years. So I have to believe that in my market, I guess that would be a standard. What I've seen over on the service side is anywhere from about, depending if, the files are updated, what have you, we could go anywhere from 55 to 70%. Depends how the files are set up.
Okay. And again, it comes back to data purity. It comes back to the opportunity of having clean data, and that goes for anything. It goes for marketing dollars, goes for BDC dollars. Right now, you're building out 7 stores. How do you approach that? 7 stores? Can you give me a lead total on just an average, just round figure, so we can work some backwards math? And
I don't know. Let's go with let's go. I don't know. Let's call it 600.
Okay, 600.
Some of my stores are a little bit smaller, but let's go with 600.
So 600 leads. How are you going to staff for the sales part of things? Based on 600 leads, how will you staff it?
And a mediocre agent should be able to handle anywhere between 130 to 150 leads a month, including the follow-ups.
Okay. And so do you assume everyone you hire is mediocre to start with so you get your hands on them and can train them up? Is that a fair assessment? Or do you go out and look for talent and pay for talent?
I love that. I'd rather build talent. I hire off of attitude. Obviously, you have to have some kind of a base in not necessarily
call center, right?
Yeah. Well, not really call center. Well, yeah. Listen, right now, currently, I have 9 agents.
Wait.
One of my
9 for, is that for sales and service?
I have sales and service. Yeah,
okay, sorry. I'm like, what do I need 9 for? Yeah. You said you're the operations manager. I'm going to fire you for during COVID, dude. What are you doing? All right.
Yeah, sorry about it. It's just because so many BDCs are segregated. Like, oh, I have an internet sales department, or oh, I have a service. I do all of it, right? So, so one of my best agents right now has been with me. She actually came on board recently. But she was one of my best agents previously, and she was a receptionist when I found her.
It's cool. Phone skills, right? Not even really phone skills, just
people.
Just the ability to talk to someone right now.
Talk to someone.
Right now, the bar is fucking low as far as that goes, because it's.
I lost my shit.
I mean, you go out in public and you can. I mean, masks aside, people now have. It's cool. Okay, all right. So you have 9 people. Do you house them all in the same area? Is it a team environment, even though they have separate job titles, or is service somewhere and sales is somewhere else?
Team environment, because it's absolutely imperative that BDC agents understand that they're working towards something. Anything. If service wants to try it with sales, or if sales is like, I don't like this anymore, and they want to try service, it's very important for them to just be in the same environment. Plus the energy is good. It's a good synergy.
Does that happen a lot with you as far as people wanting to switch sides, or them saying, hey, Shawn, I think I'm going to quit? And you say, well, hey, hold on. Have you thought about the service side or the sales side? Like, is that a part of your internal functionality then?
It's not a part of it. However, I create that environment and I let things happen organically. I let people gravitate to whatever comes naturally. That way, when you are speaking to one of my customers, it does come out natural and it's not forced.
I get that from you, that it's all about sort of the natural ability to communicate and talk to one another and just have a conversation. I find it so important, especially in the service department. So my service department history is very short. There is none. I was
That's short.
My whole life. I don't know shit about cars. I couldn't change the oil on a car. I couldn't tell you shit. I just had a major repair on my Subaru. They called me. They're like, Shawn, we got all these problems. So I was listening to all this engine shit. I'm like, whoa. I'm going to stop you there. How much does it cost? And
just do it. Yeah, just do it.
And he's like, well, should we do it? I'm like, dude, yes. Like, fix my car. I don't really care. So I'm not a gear guy, but I spend time in my service drives understanding the needs of my people when I was there, for sure. I drove shuttle really early on when I moved markets so that I could hear what people didn't like about a store or didn't where they worked.
The CSI.
Who I was, dude. You put on a hat and a shirt and you go drive a shuttle. People are just they talk. They're like a fucking Uber.
They're just like canaries. They're canaries.
Yeah. So when you look at your sales and service BDCs, are you guys involved in post? We talked about post appointment, yes, but is there post sale work that you're doing on either side, fixed or the sales side for CSI? Like, is that a part of your job as a committee, or how does that work?
100% my job. As I told you before, this BDC director / operations help, if you will. I need to know what's going on out there, and what better way than to get it directly from my customers. I mean, if somebody came in, let's just look at it this way. Let's talk about sales really, really quickly.
Yeah.
I come in and I see you. We strike up a conversation. I have an appointment. It's booked. I come in. You're showing me your Subaru WRX STI. This is the turbo. This is this. This is that. This is this. This is that. And then I leave the dealership. But I showed purchase intent, which is what got me into your dealership in the first place, right?
Dude, no one's showing up to dealerships just to show up there. I mean, unless you're doing some giveaway to start
with the
rubber. If it isn't that, then people aren't like, well, honey, I'd like to go spend an afternoon fucking having my head branded. Let's go across the street to a car dealership. Like,
yeah, exactly. Well, exactly, right? So what's the reason for someone not leaving? Do you think that anybody's ever not sold a car just because there was a personality clash?
Absolutely.
Do you think that a customer would call back and speak to the manager, or would they just kibosh the whole thing and go down the street?
Dude, I used to freak people out when I'd walk into my manager's office. I go, hey, man, I'm not the right guy here. My manager would go, what are you talking about? I'd say, dude, I'm telling you right now, these people and I aren't going to get a car deal done. So go give them to so-and-so, because that's way better suited. I don't need commission. I don't give a shit. I want you to sell a car. People don't do that. But is that how you look at things, to try and pair them up and sort of move that environment forward?
Well, I don't look to pair up anything. I look on creating a culture, creating processes that work based on measurables. And if you can't change what you can't measure. So if so-and-so has X amount of walk-ins and he's following the same process as Tom, and Tom's selling more cars than him, and they're both following the same process, well, maybe there's a problem with Jake's attitude. How are we going to know that? Because the customer that leaves is never going to call back, or they're going to go on Google and just start dismantling your shop, right? So what if I call every single one of them the next day and I ask them sincerely, how was the visit? Not why didn't you buy?
Right.
How was the visit? Well, everything was great, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so is there anything that we could have done for you to purchase the vehicle, or however you want to say it? Oftentimes, I've heard in my career, well, it just didn't work out. The salesman was eating at his desk. we were talking to him, but his face was just in the computer, or I don't know, obviously he had a gyro for lunch because we could still smell his breath, or. So we're able to quickly turn around and send an email over to sales manager and say, listen, we think that we should still follow up with Mr. Welsh because he didn't not buy the car because he wasn't satisfied with the price. In our conversation, that never came up. However, we think that there was just like a personality clash, but he's still winnable.
Okay, so you guys dig all the way in. By the way, if you ever want your salespeople to get a really good idea of what they look like, just record them at their desk during a car deal, and it'll blow their minds. It'll make them. They'll either shell up or they'll be like, "All right, man, I can't believe I put my feet." I had a guy who didn't realize he put his feet on his desk. Just mid-negotiation, just got so comfortable with people. All of a sudden, he just leaned back, and boom, come his feet, and the people were just, "What is this?" Finally,
well, can I stop you for a second when you say something like that? Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm giving you the desk. Technically, I'm giving you the customers. Technically, I'm giving you all the marketing. Technically, I'm giving you the BDC. Technically, I'm giving you the phone. Technically, I'm giving you the pens. So what more do I also have to film you to show you how stupid you look? Are you kidding me?
So the worst part about it is that you named off everything that makes the car business great. And it's everything that makes it. If you want to sell cars, you can go sell cars. If you're an entrepreneur watching this right now, go sell cars, because it's everything about being an entrepreneur without any of the overhead. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? No, you don't have to write checks for shit.
There's no rent. There's no rent.
You're using $1 million CRMs. I'm spending $1 million on advertising. You don't have to do shit.
Yeah.
So salespeople are, look, Shawn, why do we have BDCs? Why do we have sales BDCs? I know why we have fixed ops BDCs. It's a totally different world. I always understood that. Why do we have sales ones?
Long-term follow-up.
Okay.
Consistent professional communication.
Okay.
Or I should actually break that up into two. Professional communication controlled by scripting as much as possible. Consistent communication, and also the fact that we're technically not paid on commission.
Sure.
So my motivation to answer your questions, whether you buy the car or not, doesn't necessarily affect me, or it affects me at 20%.
Right. Because it affects you. It affects you. It's still part of your pay plan. You have no control over it.
Correct.
It's like fucking pulling a scratcher and hoping you're going to get your 20% off.
Yeah, but I make up for that. I make up for that on the back end.
I'm sure you have a wonderful hourly and you do all of the things there. Again, that metric isn't for your people. It is for the people you work for. And I understand that. So, or not even them, their managers, because managers love to bitch about other managers, especially, sales managers bitch about you and your position, blah, 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 blah. With you and your, how do you envision moving forward? Here you are in your first couple months with a dealership group. What changes are you really trying to implement, and things that you've learned during this period that you really want to stick post the whole thing?
That the BDC is an extension of the sales department. We're here to help you guys. We're not here to take deals. We're not here to take your measly little $25. We're actually genuinely here to help. We're here to add another layer of communication. We're here to basically be, if I could say it this way, they're secretaries. How many salespeople do you walk into, whether, let's just call it North America, how many go walk into any dealership? How many times can you do a crossword? How many times can you do the Sudoku? How many times can you check your Facebook? And then go and ask them, have you followed up with everybody that you saw a month ago?
Yeah, or that you sold in the last 6 months, or
I would pull out a report of the last 500 people that came through your door over the last 3 weeks in about 27 seconds, and have people on the phone calling them in the next 2.
That has a lot to do with, but look, here's the thing though, right, is that the BDC, although in my opinion, as I saw it come up, was created out of the laziness of sales departments not being able to execute, as well as, to be fair, the influx of the internet lead. The idea 100%. And volume of work that occurs, if you cannot have a floor of people you trust. Now, when I started my guys, I had 6 guys a store. Everyone could handle everything. That was their jobs. That was where they lived. Fine, no big deal. But the advent of both together kind of made it a necessary evil. How how is it that what do your best salespeople do? I guess that's what I'm really trying to get to. The best salespeople you see interact with your BDC. What are some traits that salespeople listening to this show can say, wait, that's easy for me to do. I can certainly do that.
Let's start off super simple. Come say hello in the morning. Can we start with that? How about putting notes? If they spend so much time putting granular notes, and I have an entire training process that with regards to notes, right? So 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as much as you speak. You hear a barking dog in the background while you're talking to the customer, talk about the dog, put that in the notes. Think about that, Mr. Welsh. Do you have a dog, Mr. Welsh?
I do.
Do you love your dog, Mr. Welsh?
Yeah, he's.
I like that one. Imagine you're talking to me and I'm just some kind of BDC agent and everything's going well. I hear your dog in the background. Let's say I don't even address that there's a dog, but I actually put it in the notes. Everybody loves talking about their dog. Imagine you show up to meet someone that you didn't even speak to. And you say, hey, by the way, how's your dog? You'd be like, what the hell are you guys talking about? So it just kind of shows like a seamless transition. So yeah, salesmen could just come and say hello in the morning. Bring somebody a coffee. What else they could do a ton of stuff. Put notes after. That's the biggest thing for us. I mean, if you're going to do one thing, let's just sum it down. If you're going to do one thing, please put notes in the file once the appointment is gone.
Okay, all right. So salespeople watching, which, there's a few of you out there. So here's all that Shawn and BDC managers across the world ask salespeople for. It is one simple request of theirs that you put notes in your CRM. I'm going to follow that up with a note from your owner who told you to use the $1 million fucking piece of equipment he pays for to put in notes for the $500,000 BDC he funds to make sure you got enough cars to sell. It's not that hard of a deal. It's very, very simple. It doesn't take a lot of time. I will hear the excuses of CRM suck, they're robust. You will not hear a disagreement from me. But if this is your profession, if it's what you take seriously, then you must find a way forward and you must be able to use the system. That would be like walking into a Best Buy at the phone counter and the dude being like, I have no idea what phone, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I'd be like, well, you're at the phone counter, dude. Like, why are you standing at the phone counter if you don't know anything about phone? So it does not mean about the car. It means about the customer. It means about the engagement. It means about taking those simple notes. Shawn, I used to call it test drive intel. I'd sit in the back of a car with a couple up front. They'd forget you were there. They'd start talking about everything. They'd talk about their budget. They'd talk about their kids. They'd talk about what they would like about the car. Would it fit in the garage? You just, You get back. Someone says, oh, well, I don't know if she liked the space. And I go, wait, she said it would definitely fit in the garage. So what are you talking about? Like,
that's exactly it, man. That's what I'm talking about. That's what a BDC is. That's what I'm talking about.
I agree with you. We came in. So CarBiz started because of a large dealer group in Madison, Wisconsin, who met me through a corporate contract I was on and asked me to help him retool his whole BDC. And I said, dude, that's not really my bad. I don't really even like BDCs, and here's why. And he said, that's why I want to hire you, because I'm going to have my centralized BDC come hell or high water. It makes no difference to me if you tell me to get rid of it. I won't. So how do we make it better? And basically what we did was we just turned it into a triage center. We just said every lead that comes in, get every piece of information you can from that customer and then pass it to the salesperson, and then make that a video pass, or make it a telephone pass, or make it a, hey, Shawn will call you at 12:30 is your next call time. Great. Shawn will call you at 12:30. He'll have more vehicle details. He's actually at the store. Have a great day. Those transitions are simple, dude. It's simplified all the time. Shawn, what do you think is the number one reason your reps burn out?
Burn out?
Yeah, just either quit or become overwhelmed or aren't producing at the job they were at a level. Like, what's the real reason you see commonly in that department? Why it happens?
I personally have never had anybody burn out on me.
Shawn, you never had anyone quit on you?
I'm not being arrogant. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. But however, you'll often see that in understaffed BDCs or overstaffed BDCs. Understaffed BDCs, CSI goes down. The agents are overworked. There's way too much going on. overstaffed BDCs, they're not making enough money.
Okay, so it comes back to money and being overwhelmed.
Sure.
That seems fair. That seems fair enough to me, man. As we kind of wrap this up here, you've been more than gracious with your time, man. I really, really appreciate it. With your stores, as the new guy, as constructing this department of 9, what do you look for? What are the top 3 metrics that you track for your sales department to kind of keep them in line, or how do you look at that? To kind of top 3 KPIs for that and service, Shawn.
Top 3 over in the sales side, book show sold.
Okay, so those are the pay plans. We got those. Book show sold.
Book show sold. That's what, for me personally, that's what it's come down to. And I've been successful enough to be on your show. And I'm all the way in Montreal, Canada, Quebec, Français, right? So so I guess I'm doing pretty well for myself. Over on the service side, that's great. Again, show ratios are super, super important. Prior to the show ratio, I'm going to have to go activities. Large amount of activities, large amount of calls. But the calls are all based on revenue-generating activities, revenue-generating campaigns. So I'm tracking activities. I'm tracking the show. I'm also tracking no-shows. And, everything else kind of falls into line after that. Listen, at the end of the day, it's very simple.
Your fixed ops department do a lot of declined services?
Absolutely. Of course. But there's a time and place for that, right?
Yes.
And your declined services absolutely has to be in line with the communication bridge between myself and the service managers, who I literally talk to almost every day. I guarantee you it's every 2 days.
Yeah, and there may be a reason for declined service. There may have not been a note in. Like, the last thing you want to do is call a declined service. There'd be a legitimate reason why declined service took place. There's a future appointment of them. Who knows with that? So, Shawn, when you look at that, you deal with managers, you deal with your people, and you're also overlooking kind of the consumer side. Are you guys utilizing video? Are you utilizing text? Like, how are you taking that kind of next level communication?
Yeah, listen, not doing video. I just don't think my market, I know where you guys are at, it's a lot different. In my market right now, I don't think we're there yet. We could be there if you push, but I can honestly tell you that no, video is not necessarily that big. It would be probably a little bit more tedious to do it just because of the languages in my province or state, as you guys would say. It's English and French. And there's a lot of rules governing the protection of the official language, which is French. We're getting into politics right now, which I don't want to.
I have no interest in my politics. I have even less in yours. So,
I'm sure.
So you can
So guilty as charged. Not doing video, and we're doing a lot more texting. I don't know. Do I plug a couple of texting companies on your show or no? Or
if you use people, if they're valuable to you, tell me who they are.
Yeah, right now, if you're going to look at texting companies, Kimobi is doing some absolutely exciting work. Alex and his team over there, I brought these guys on board. I met them a long time ago when I was at the Delari group of companies. He was just starting out in his basement. He'll tell you. But Alex, you should reach out to him. He's a titan right now. They were at the NADA as well. Kimobi is an absolutely excellent texting platform.
Okay.
It's one of the better ones out there.
That's awesome. When it comes to texting, I think there's a big upside. Shawn, I would definitely. Do you have people who speak French in your BDCs, or is that a thing?
It's an absolute priority. Je parle en français à 100%, donc je pourrais avoir une conversation avec toi comme je pourrais l'avoir en anglais.
I'm gonna say you like the show. That's what I'm gonna go with. Look, because I don't. Like I said to you, there's no editing, which means there's no post. My guys aren't gonna go back and translate that for me.
That's
but here's the thing. I would tell you to just tap your toe in the video. Find a way. And I say this because the idea of the market. Look, dude, I understand, but unless you guys don't have internet, you've got a market for it. So there's ways to engage and interact. And just by giving people the option, what we found was that those who wanted to were further down the funnel and had more of an intent. And so it was interesting to see it. And there are plenty of video companies.
Well, you know what? If I may say so, actually, where I am right now, we have we're starting to dabble with it. So I'm not the one. It's called again. If I could plug them, I mean, I don't get paid by them or anything, but they're actually called Dealer Inside. It's actually pretty cool what these guys are doing. It's the first time that I've seen it in my entire career, and it was literally 5 or 6 weeks ago. So I'm not sure if it's because of this whole COVID thing, but it's literally a button on your VDPs that the customer engages in. This window pops up. You get to select the date and time that you wish this thing to ring. And sure enough, at the date and time, it kind of like has a process. It pages one of the salesmen on the floor that they're using their phone, and it connects with Shawn Welsh, and then there's your video, and you could do a walk around it. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, I'd be lying to say that we don't want to go in that direction. We're not full-fledged into it, but you're absolutely right, for sure.
That's a great place to start. That's a great VDP tool. I'd love to hear, because I know you're a report guy, I'd love to hear the amount of engagement from that. I'd also be really interested to hear where those users come from, right? So were they your Facebook campaigns? Were they coming from organic search? Did they come from paid search? Sort of how did they meld into the tool? There's a lot of things you can do. I don't know how much of a Google Analytics nerd you are, but I'm sort of an OG nerd in that space. And so there's a million different things you can do to really kind of penetrate and see the quality.
Yeah.
So,
well, I had the luxury, actually, at my last employment. I worked for the largest Mercedes-Benz dealership in all of Canada. So the amount of I dipped my toe into the Google Analytics, I am not even going to pretend I'm anywhere close to you. But I had the luxury of really being, how can I say this? One of my vendors, his name is Valerie over at S Media in Edmonton. These guys are literally doing next level shit. He's like, I guess like you, he's just a sultan for this stuff. And he really showed me the power of the Google Analytics. And I mean, it's just, it just keeps trickling down, and just pluses, and you could just drill this thing down. I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm happy with my BDC stuff.
I tell people all the time, don't go into data without a Sherpa, man. It can get dirty. But here's the thing, though, and I would tell you this as kind of a discussion point for many dealers in your position. Who I have people call me all the time and say, Shawn, I'm a marketing director. Why would I need your company? Well, you're a marketing director. It means you got 10 different hats. You got 20 different employees. I got one focus, right? My focus is in data. But our company works the best when it has people like you who understand at a store level what is going on, what happened to the opportunity, because data in itself is big, ugly, and sort of not sexy. But if you bring it all the way down to what happens based on that data, based on that spend from what comes out of CRM that you see, that is the power and the gold of everything. So I tell dealerships, make sure you have both sides covered, man. It's guys like you are not easy to find. And so people want to make sure that they stick with that, because our industry is headed in a probably not we're not going to run as heavy on employees. Let's put it that way. So you're going to have to figure out, at least in our side of the pond over here, you're going to have to figure out how to do things a little bit differently. Are you seeing that, Shawn? Are you seeing a contraction in the amount of employees? Is your employer discussing those things, or are we kind of back to business as usual, meaning whatever we had before we brought back?
Yeah, what a great question. I don't necessarily think we're going to scale back on the old school way of doing things. However, I think we are going to react. I think ultimately, as we keep saying, we talk about customers, because to me it's customer, customer, customer. I think it's the customer ultimately that's going to dictate in what direction we're going to go in.
Yeah, well, that is totally true, and I think that's how we've gotten here. But how are we going to keep up with them? Because we have a bad habit of just kind of telling them, yeah, well, we get you want to change, but we got the cars, so come do the business.
Yeah. Well, listen, at the end of the day, basically, I think subjectively, of course, I think that we're going to go a lot heavier into BDC. And not just because I work here, but literally people, the market has changed. People want instant gratification. People want their questions answered. So if I ask you how much horsepower your WRX has, and I walk into a dealership, I'm like, hey, how much horsepower this has? Why don't you come on over to my desk and let's talk about it? Like, no, dude, I don't want to talk about price. You're going to sell me. I asked you how much goddamn horsepower it has, man. You want me over your desk? Was the answer over there? So I think by BDCs not being commission-based, we're going to answer their question. And I think eventually what I have seen actually is the gravitation. It's a start. It's going to be a long, slow process. But I think we have seen a gravitation towards more of product advisors as opposed to salespeople.
Yeah, man. Here's the thing. If you have people who work on flat rate, what you're getting is an experience. It's what happens when you can tell when you walk into a jewelry store, you can tell what jewelers are paid on commission and what jewelers are paid on flats. It's as obvious as the day is long. It's the same with a car dealership. You can walk in, someone can say, "What's the price?" "Oh, it's right here on the vehicle." "Well, yeah, what's the negotiated price?" "It's right here on the vehicle." I've watched guys with one price stores walk car deals over $500.
Wow.
$500 because you're a one price store, and they say, "Shawn, we cannot come off the one price by even $1 because we've ruined our integrity." That takes a lot of guts. Do you see anything about your side up in Canada going to a kind of MAT pricing sort of across the board, or do you think it will stay pretty negotiable and you guys will always kind of be commission salespeople, at least for the time?
Oh man, that's a great question. Without naming names, I can confirm to you right now that there is a big outfit out here who are doing very well. I have a lot of respect for them. They have already adopted that years ago. Okay. No negotiating. This is the price. They also
and they're a big group, and they're still successful doing that?
Huge group. They've expanded more so. They've even actually expanded out in Florida. Do the math. So
those dudes are pretty crazy though. Those dudes are very nice. Plus they got really sweet boots, my boy. That's a shout out to my boy Jay Smithwick at 360. All right, cool. So dude, let me just wrap it up for you.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do, Shawn?
I'm passionate about it. I love it. I want to help people. The car industry is a beautiful thing. If you put the right person at the right place, magic happens. I'm in the people business. I'm not in the money business. I like money, yes, but money is a result. I came up through customer service. I've always had customer service related positions, and I do really well at it. Why? Because I'm like a chameleon. I can just adapt to my environment. So I feel at my age right now and at 18, 19 years in the business with all these young and up and comers coming, I get to be that guy that I looked up to 20 years ago. I've now kind of taken on that forcefully.
Yeah, it's not that fun.
And no, it's not that fun. Plus, I'm losing my hair and shit. My knees hurt in the morning after my run. Not very cool. So I'm going to work as fast as possible to just be, remember the old school CEO in his office that didn't really move and came in for 1 hour on Friday? No, I'm just kidding. No, I just think that the industry needs a lot. It needs a lot of leaders. I think there's a culture shift coming, and it's going to be more customer service based, and that's going to require leaders. And I'm in a good, strong position right now where I can actually give back to what has given me such a beautiful career.
And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You give
is there music in the background? Or?
No, there is no music in the background. There is an intro music. When it's done, there will be outro music. I'm gonna tell Cirillo that too. What's with playing music over the first two?
Cirillo has awesome music. I'm sorry.
Some sort of a jazz call-in show. Like what the hell was that? I mean, I love the guy, and I just did his show, so I guess I'm bound to have music over.
Cirillo is awesome. Well, hey, but listen, but before you close up, I just want to say something since we're still on the air. Didn't you and your wife recently celebrate an anniversary?
We did. We've been married 13 years. Yes.
Nice. Well, I just want to let you, congratulations, man, to you and your wife. That's really awesome.
It's pretty awesome. She's put up with me for a long time. She's actually been putting up with me for well over 17 years as a human-to-human contact. So you gotta give her a lot of credit, because without her, this logo doesn't exist. This whole thing would have headed down a much different hill. So I'm always thankful for that.
Nice.
Shawn, are you a sports guy? Last question. Sports guy?
Yeah, I mean, I dabble with mixed martial arts. I've actually had a brief career in mixed martial arts. That's a whole other podcast,
Cool.
but I dabble with that for about 7 years. So yeah.
Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah, now
I was
I'm in
wondering
charge
if
of
you were
customer
excited about the
service.
Canadians playing hockey again. I don't know if that mattered to you or not.
No, listen, you know what? Before we finish, I'm going to finish off like this. It's funny we say this. I was saying this yesterday. Everybody's getting excited about this now. So listen, for me personally, this is what I think. The day that these guys are going to come to my work and watch me work, then I'm going to go to their place and watch them work.
Yeah, I don't go to their place, Shawn. I sit on my couch, bro. I work on my couch and I sit on my couch and I watch other people. No, it's all go Blackhawks, baby. There's no question about it.
Good for you guys. Hope
we're excited, but no,
wins.
dude, I get it. I totally. My business partner said that quarantine was just an extension of his life, but it was made better by the fact there were no sports, because he doesn't care about sports, so he doesn't I don't care, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I like it for entertainment, but that's about it. I mean,
that's the point of all of it, right? That's the point of doing anything outside of work, is for entertainment. Dude, thank you so much. You have been a tremendous guest. Your energy and passion for our industry is unmatched. Where can people find you, man?
You can hit me up on LinkedIn. You can also hit me up at the BDC Alchemist at gmail.com. I just literally started my company, so my website should actually be up and running in the next week or so. But right now, hit me up on LinkedIn or the BDC Alchemist at gmail.com.
And what's the website going to be when it is live? Do you have a URL for it?
Not yet, but you know what? I might do a poll on LinkedIn to ask people what they think is best.
Oh, God, more LinkedIn polls.
I'm just kidding. That's why I said it. It's driving me crazy. Hey, what do you think?
I think you should stop asking me fucking questions.
Yeah, exactly. There's the poll for you. That's your Shawn Welsh poll. But honestly, it'll probably be something like BDC Alchemy. Oh, I shouldn't even say it, because someone's gonna buy the domain.
Right? No, dude, I was asking because I'm typing it in. I want to buy it, and I want to hold it over the fire.
Yeah. But you're gonna have to do it. But so the BDC Alchemist at gmail.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn right now. That's where you go. And I'm always putting out fresh, free, actionable content constantly.
You are just a content giver. You know, people criticize me all the time because I only do things twice a week, but that's just how I roll.
Whatever, man.
I love guys like you out there just every day putting out the information. You'll put out a lot less when you start running your business and want to get paid for it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, buddy. Keep up the good work, and thanks for joining the show. Folks, as always, you can find me all over LinkedIn. That's about it anymore. I used to say Facebook. That's not even true. So come see us on LinkedIn. Go check out the show on the YouTube page. And as always, have a great week, and we'll see you again next week.